to gather ourselves.
And sorry, Julie, I took away. You were asking so many good questions. I shouldn't. I shouldn't take away.
No, I was just trying to think back of things that we thought about,
Mm-hmm.
things that we wanted to ask you. But maybe like, what are some of the struggles that you've faced with identifying yourself as First Nations? Or
That's a good question. When I grew up, my family, we didn't practice our culture as I was growing up in school. So like my dad, he didn't practice it. Like we went to powwows every once in a while, and I'd go there, but I never really was actively involved in any culture. It wasn't until I graduated high school, actually, when I was 17, that I decided that I wanted to do more cultural things. So I took it upon myself, and a lot of First Nations people it's past generational things that has happened to us in before that leave us without a culture today. You understand? Yeah, like the things that happened to us before lead up to our parents not sharing the culture with us and not teaching us the language, and that's something that we all lack as First Nations people. Like in a broad scale, I would say about 80% of youth don't know how to speak their own language. Yeah. So it's one of the one of the barriers for us that we have to breach before we can move forward in any sense. But yeah, as I was growing up, it wasn't something that was was like, go get your regalia, we're gonna go to the powwow. It wasn't something like we did all the time. It was something that I had to put into myself to say, oh, I want to go to powwows and I want to sing and I want to do all these things because I want to make people happy.
That's cool.
Yeah.
What are some of the things that the kids that are non-native, what can they do to help build the bridge between the two?
I guess asking questions and asking the right
Getting to
ones. Yeah, because there is a barrier there where people think stereotypically different things, and that's something that we all lack, and that's something that we all have to grow up doing. So we have to acknowledge that we're still here, and people they don't just brush us off, and a lot of it is, like I said, past generational things. Like our grown-ups tell us that Native people live this way.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, they don't know.
Follow, yeah.
They don't understand, and then they try to teach youth that, and it's really youth engaging youth is what it is, and that's something that's actually never really been done. And I thank you for bringing that up, because I'm going to use that. Yeah, definitely. Something that well, it is, because it's something that needs to be understood. Is that what we practice?
In our school, we have quite a few kids that are not noticeably native like me, like that they have the same kind of features that I have. What is the best way to try and help some of those kids to recognize their past and to accept it? What would you say to that?
It's all about self-identification. Like if you don't grow up thinking that you're whatever tribe you come from, then you're not going to acknowledge it. You're just going to be with everybody else. You know what I mean? It's not like, again, you don't want to be secluding yourself either, right?
Exactly.
And that's the thing. So it's more of a finding out who you are, and then taking the initiative to learn more about it. So it's not something that people strive to do, but it's something that we need to strive to do.
Because guys, that's one of our biggest problems out at our school, is that we are a very culturally white school. So even the kids that are First Nations, a lot of them, you wouldn't even know that they're First Nations because they want so much to be accepted, not to be centered out as being First Nations. So that's something that I'm trying to figure out how to work with.
Yeah.
And help them to see that First Nation side too. Okay.
Yeah, and that's something I also struggled with as well. Sometimes, people called me out, saying different racial slurs, but I just kind of just went with it, and I kind of put that away, and I put my culture away, and I just lived with what people were doing. I did sports, I did all these good things. No, I grew up in the States, so it was different over there.
Oh.
Yeah, so and you can only even that imaginary border there. There's so many different things that people think in Canada than they do in the States.
Like what?
The terminal nationality, I guess, would be one. You know what I mean? Being patriotic. How patriotic you are, being an American, that kind of thing. That's kind of what holds, I would say, Americans back is their pride.
Yeah.
and to not even acknowledge the fact that there were people here before. You know what I mean? That's something that they don't understand, and they just kind of topple over it like it was just a couple pieces of specks on the ground.
I think too, and I may be speaking out of turn, but I think too with a lot of you guys, once you start to learn some of the issues, I think sometimes non-native kids feel helpless. They don't like, as an example, the residential schools. They don't like what white people did, you know, period.
Yep.
But how do you change, how do you go forward from the errors of our ancestors? You know, that's the...
Okay, the way you look at it is like this, okay? It's called white man's guilt, is what it is. It's what it's called. You know, the white man, they did all these bad things to us and they feel guilty. And they deal with it in two ways. You know, they ignore it or they get mad. You know, that's the two things that they do all the time. People, they oh, don't talk about that. You know, that's not something to talk about. Or they get mad and they kind of like, they feel like they're backed in a corner or something. They feel like we're just pecking at them, but we just want you guys to understand like what we went through and why we're like this. Like why we kind of throw the shoulder up because we don't like because you're coming at me. Meanwhile, we're just trying to be friends. But something that, like you said, like we were talking about earlier, is self-identification. You know, that was your ancestor. Maybe it was your ancestor who did all these bad things, but that's not who you are, right? So it's just like coming to terms with today and yesterday. You know, learning from the past will be your success to the future, and that's something that we all have to do.
What do you feel are the biggest misconceptions that people have about Aboriginal culture?
Misconceptions is in like some of the things that like we do every day. Or
just in terms of what Aboriginal culture is, like they sort of, you know, it's like I've heard some people make the comment, oh, you're Aboriginal, so you get a tax break. You know, those types of misconceptions.
Okay, so the misconceptions would be like tax exemption, free gas, like free cheese.
Free cheese?
Yeah, over in the States actually they get like food, like they get all these different, like they get free cheese. I forget exactly what it's called, the terminology, but they do get food for free and all that sort of thing, and noodles and that stuff. Just free gas, you know, tax exempt. Free schooling. Yeah. But this, one of the things you have to realize there is we like made treaties so that we could do all these things.
Yes.
You know, like you look at what you have. You have a piece of land to live on. You have a roof over your head. You have water to drink. You know, these are the things that we gave you. You know, like we gave all of Canada this. And you want to come at me like I can't have some certain things that you can have, and that like, and the Indian Act is so like racial, like it's so racist because it's actually in Canada and the United States are the only countries in the world that seclude another race of people and have them abide by certain rules. Yeah, no other country in the world does that.
No, I didn't know. Australia.
Well, maybe that for their Aborigines, but yeah, those three, yeah. But other than that, no other country ever does that. They don't section off other people to get certain things or to get taken away certain things. You know what I mean? So that's another thing that people need to realize as well. But yeah.
We see things too, like you've probably heard of Shannon's Dream.
No.
Okay, there was a girl from Attawapiskat,
Okay.
who she used to have to go away to school, and she was trying to have the government change it so that the schools would be in good shape, like they're portables and they're in horrible shape, and to also build a proper school there so that the kids could continue to go to school at home